Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to a brand new New World video. And it has been a couple of days since we started the season 3 of the New World, the expansion. And I've been streaming basically 24/7, just a lot of PvP stuff. And the question that gets asked on stream all the time is, showcase the build, what build are you playing, what is this damage, like that kind of stuff. I'm currently in the process of slightly deviating from a standard bruiser build. I am bored of Great X Warhammer, and to be quite honest, I don't think it's that good anymore. So in this video, I will be showcasing the Firestaff Great X build that is extremely viable right now and provides ridiculous damage. This is the build you're gonna be rank 1 scoreboard in OPR every single time, rank 1 in wars every single time, as long as you have hands and you know how to play the game. So, that being said, let's go through it. First of all, we're gonna be talking about a couple of artifacts that are very good, because I think artifacts are very important when it comes to this build. Now, first artifact that I will be using when I'm playing this build is going to be the pants that everybody has, attuned leather pants. Now, you may be wondering, why would you run this? The simple answer is it gives you massive amount of stat bonus. Look at that magnify. If I were to buff up, and keep in mind, this is very early on into the expansion, so my gear is not finalized at all. It is very early on. We are like day 2 right now. Or day 3. So I've just bought it up, and my stats, this is literally how I play OPRs. 25 dex, 26 focus, because I can't do it differently. Let me demonstrate why that is, and max out the intelligence. Now, if I had the perfect gear, I would honestly consider going 25 strength, 25 dex, 25 focus, 500 int, and the rest in constitution, and I think that would be the ideal way to play it. However, a few viable options are to simply just go intelligence and then con, if that is what you prefer, but I think this is bad, and I personally think going like this is much better. So as you can see, the pants change your stats quite a lot, so you just level 1, 1, 1, 1 until you reach 25, 25, and then you put 1 extra in focus, for example. So this is how you can reach, and then put everything else into the con. This is how I'm playing at the moment. As I get bonus stats, I don't even know if it's possible yet, or if I can play 25 strength on top of that. That would be a viable option, or if you can find a way to get to 50 dex, that can also be a very viable option, because as you can see, you're gonna be dealing bonus damage when you have full health, which as this build, you will be doing bonus damage a lot of the times. When it comes to focus, 25 focus is nice for ability cooldown. It's once again not needed, so if you're not playing the bonus pens, you can skip this entire process and just play 500 intelligence. Now that we have the skill tree down, let's once again return back to the artifacts. We got the attuned leather pants, as we said, and a couple more useful artifacts that you could run on this build and be completely fine with it would be the featherweight body, which is basically a body that has no weight. You could also run the boots that you get from the season pass. However, be careful, because I do believe you can only claim these once per account. So since I have 6 accounts that I can play wars on, I'm very cautious about picking this on this specific character over here on Nyx. But these tumbler feet wraps are absolutely phenomenal, and I'm sure there's other artifacts that can be good for the build, but for the sake of this video not being too long, everybody will have attuned leather pants. Just play attuned leather pants, they are great. So the way you make the light 12.6, which is the highest you can go with the medium pants, I believe, is to just have one medium piece. For example, I have medium legs, and then just go light on all the other pieces. And you can always experiment when it comes to weight setups by just using some random gear that you have in the inventory, but I figured this works the best for me. And now, moving on to the artifact that makes this combo actually worth it. It is right over here, the Abyss, the beautiful Great X. If you're wondering how you get this artifact, is you farm the Murgard massive portals, well, over here in Murgard. I think it's Murgard only, I might be wrong, but you need to farm the big portals that spawn here on the mage, and then there's one over here, and then there's one down here. So farm those portals, and eventually you will land on the Abyss Great X. Now, let's quickly go over the Abyss Great X and what makes it so good and what makes this combo actually viable. It is the fact that it has Magnify, right? So the highest attribute gets enhanced, in this case intelligence, but look at the Darkened Blade. 99% of the damage is now converted to Void, and if it is higher, it will scale from intelligence. And that passive in itself is basically the reason why we can do this combo. Now, moving on to the next perks that we have Abyss, which will deal 15% more damage when mana is below 100, which is once again perfect synergy when it comes to combos, which I will display later. We have Abyssal Attunement, which once again, it is a phenomenal perk for the Great Axe. We move on to Refreshing Move, again, really good for the Great Axe. And then you can pick a perk, but you cannot pick a gem for this Great Axe. So it is, you have a couple very specific choices that you can pick. I personally went with a Thwarting Counter, because I will explain to you how I play and how I'm dropping 50-60 kills on OPR, because it is very specific to my playstyle. Now, if you want, you could also go with the perk that gives you bonus damage when you're out of stamina. That one is usually super risky to take, but you could go that route. Or there are some other options, but I personally believe that Thwarting Counter is going to be your best bet when it comes to the Abyss. And now, moving on to this artifact over here called Ankh. You can get from PvP track. I personally got it super early on, and I guarantee you after this video is posted, after a little bit of time, I believe this artifact is going to get nerfed. If you have a pocket healer, you don't need con, you don't even need armor, you get healed so much when you're using this thing. And if you will see, I pair it with the stone form that also heals me. It is absolutely ridiculous, and I'll show you in a second. But once again, it gives you Magnify, which is huge, but let's read it through the perks. Center of Attention. So again, with this build, if you can play it with a pocket healer, you're going to be an absolute monster, no matter what build you play. If you're light, if you're medium, it doesn't matter, you're going to be insanely strong. Now, if we take a look, incoming heals are 50% stronger, but my consumables are now weaker. So again, your health potions, your regen pots are not going to do as much, so you need to find other ways of getting heals, which is either sitting on sacreds or playing with a pocket healer. Pair that on top of Divine, you get even more heals. Pair that with health, you have more health. And then we add a perk onto this. Now, I am a big believer that Stamina Recovery is the best perk of the amulet. But again, you can run any sort of other perk that you prefer. Maybe you're getting hit by Slash a lot, play Health Divine Slash Protection. Maybe you're getting hit by Fire a lot, play Health Divine Fire Protection. But if you want to follow my steps, I guarantee you Stamina Recovery is by far your best bet. Now we're going to move on to the ring. Again, I'm playing Champion's Ring at the moment. Nothing too fancy. It is 680 gear score. We don't have enough days in the season yet where I can upgrade any of this jewelry to 700. So for now, I'm just sitting on Champ's Ring. It's good, it does the job. You can be fancier by going like fire damage, or even you can be fancier by having a void damage on your ring, and both of those will nicely enhance your damage of this build. And now we're moving on to the earring, and this is an earring I got earlier, and it is super good for this build. Now keep in mind, this is my Ironman account, right? So I don't buy items on the trading post. This is literally all Ironman items, okay? So Empowering Toast, super good for this build, right? I click a potion, all of a sudden I deal more damage. Refreshing Toast is almost a must on earrings. Potion cooldown being faster is great. But look at this, Healing Heart. On Heart Rune, heal for 10% of max health instantly. So when I get caught, I heal for 10% of my max health, but that is not all. I'm also scaling it with Ankh and all the bonuses. So I'm getting a ridiculous amount of health by just clicking my stone form already. My stone form is 700 gear score, it's buffed up version of the healing stone form, but you can literally play any sort of stone form with this build that you would like, or any detonades, or even vines, or you can play almost any heart rune. Even something like a cannon rune could be absolutely huge. And now let's move on to the weapon. What Firestaff am I going to pair with this beautiful Great Axe? How am I going to stat pad my way into the rank 1 spot of every war, every OPR, everything we do? Let's take a look at this beauty we pulled that is complete joke, but it's kinda good. Look at this, Keen Kinley Jacket Meteor Shower. Now, this is obviously a joke. This is just the best I have on this Ironman account, but I have found really nice success with this. You may be wondering, bro, this looks kinda weird, but it kinda works. I'm getting my stone forms permanently, I'm getting good empowers on my hits, is actually quite solid. However, if I could pick, I would have Meteor Shower as a perk on my gear, and then I would have any sort of damage enhancers over here on the Firestaff. We're talking Attunement, we're talking Pillar of Fire would be huge, we're talking Vicious could also be also great that we don't have right here. Any sort of 3 perk damage multipliers will work. Even something like Enchanted can be really good. So you have a lot of good options, but definitely would recommend you to have a Pillar, if possible, and pair it with any sort of damage multipliers, whether Attunement, Vicious, Enchanted, whatever it is that you get, it's gonna work. Don't put too much thought into it this early on. And obviously, once I do finally have a completely full Beast build, I will be remaking this guide, or I will be updating this guide and show you what a full Beast setup actually looks like. For now, this works like a charm. So let's go ahead and talk about your armor. When it comes to playing from the distance, something like Elemental Aversion is always going to be huge. But the first thing I want to go over is refreshings. Now, on a build like this, you do want to have 4 refreshings. I only have 3. it is what it is. But refreshing is what's gonna allow you to actually pump as much damage as possible. So I would actually in this case really try to prioritize it. Next thing you can try to prioritize, since we're playing full glass cannon, is either having void harnessing or fire harnessing on your gear. Once again, void harnessing is going to increase your great X burst. Fire harnessing is going to increase your long range damage. Okay, so both of those are super good options. And then when it comes to the third one, you can go with health, you can go with aversions, you can go with any of the specific protections. There's so many gear differences that are really good that I actually can't think of on the top of my mind. But yeah, health would be good, enchanted ward would be good, any sort of conditionings would be good. So don't hesitate to equip the gear that fits your build. Don't overthink it. A lot of stuff is simply going to work. I would recommend you to try to focus on the gear score that is above 690, preferably exactly 700, so you get the max amount of stats, but this early on, most of the time that will not be possible. However, if you have an old really good gear, and if you're only playing OPRs and arenas, all the gear gets upscaled to 675, so if you have some full beast gear from the past, just use that. It's completely fine if you're playing OPRs, if you're playing arenas. Now moving on to the body, I wanted to have specifically intelligence body, and this is where my account is struggling a bit. Health is fine, sturdy energy is useless, physical aversion is okay. So this really is a 2-perker for me. This is one of the things I'm really looking to upgrade. Again, I will be looking probably for a refreshing piece here with either aversion or health or a perk or something that's gonna help out the account. Moving on to the gloves, this one in my opinion is one of the full beast pieces, unfortunately in a slightly lower gear score. We have a fire harnessing, exactly what I talked about. We have refreshing, exactly what we need. And then a health is a nice bonus. Health is by no means needed. It can be any of the aversions, any of the protections. Moving on to obviously legwear, it is completely beast in my opinion. Nothing to change here, it is a great legwear. And then moving on to the boots, again, I need a medium piece here, or medium piece gloves, but since I have beast gloves, I move it down to legs. And this one is again a little bit all over the place, but as I said, it's not bad. It has the fire harnessing, so that's a little damage bonus there. It has a physical aversion, which is good. And then on top of that, I also have a slash conditioning, which you know, it's also pretty solid. So this high gear score, 3 okay perks, we run it. So only thing I would really change here is this body, add one refreshing and a little bit of a defense to it, and we would be absolutely chilling. And just like that, we pretty much got through the entirety of the gear and how this works, but now you may be thinking, how do I go about combos, what kind of spells I play, and we're gonna go over that in a second. Let's first talk about consumables. We got the health potion is always a must. Then we have regeneration serums. Do not sleep on regeneration serums. These are amazing. Use them. And then we obviously have either gemstone dusts or absorption potions. When I play OPRs in the arena, I just use tier 3, tier 4 strong gemstone dusts because again, there's a lot of elemental damage in the game, but you can play oak flesh or any of the absorptions and everything will be perfectly fine. Now, let's go ahead and talk about the weapon mastery. Now, this is where there is a lot of deviation that you can have when it comes to this build. This is the build that I use as a medium bruiser, okay? This is I'm going into the clump, I'm W keying, and I'm using my full combo in the clump to get as much damage as possible, and that's how I personally like to play this game. However, if you are more of an assassin player, do not hesitate to experiment a little bit with the Rip. Rip is super good spell. Charge, obviously, for mobility. I think charge is almost a must. And then if you play Rip, you can drop Maelstrom and still play Gravity well. And that, in my opinion, would be pretty good as well. But if you want to completely copy me, this is what I play on the Great Axe. So when it comes to Firestaff, this is the page that I personally run and I absolutely love. However, if you want to play something like Vines or something like Detonate, don't hesitate to give a Burnout, Flamethrower and Pillar a shot, or a Burnout, Pillar and Fireball a shot. All of those are very viable. Just make sure you're taking the correct passives when you're changing the trees. So for Burnout, it is important to reach Heat It Up if you're playing it, because that's gonna give extra damage, extra pop, especially if you're playing Detonate. Never miss Singe, never miss Spellslinger, never miss Prophet of a Fire God, these are super important. Never miss Spell Focus as well. Heavy attacks no longer consume mana, super important. Unless you're playing Flamethrower, then you can drop it. Fiery Restoration is a must in all builds, okay? This is so good, it reduces so much cooldown, play it always. And then on the left tree, just kind of follow these 5 perks are really good. If you're playing a medium build, however, something like Let It Burn can also be really decent. So you get a bit of an extra fortify. So if you're playing medium, definitely take Let It Burn as well. But this is the page I usually run and it is absolutely phenomenal. Now, let's go ahead and talk about some combos. Let's pretend that these guys right here are a clump fight, okay? My usual combos are gonna look like this. Either I'm gonna dodge grab into pillar, into dodge spin, and you may be wondering, bro, we don't even have grit, what the fuck are you doing? And that is why I have actually opted out to playing the stone form, because I am going to stat pad from distance, get my heart rune up, and when my heart rune is ready, I'm gonna dodge grab, pillar, dodge spin with stone form. I'm gonna do that combo, get a few left clicks in, and dodge and charge out, and go back to stat padding. And that is literally the spell rotation that this build has. Now again, if you're playing Reap and if you're playing Burnout, your spell rotation will be different. But for me, this is literally what I do. Every war, every OPR, I stat pad from a distance, use my spells for distance, fireball from distance, even meteor shower from distance. And then when my stone form is ready, I'm ready to do boom, into pillar, and then I stone form, few left clicks, few Spinaronovichowskis, and all of a sudden you're doing so ridiculous damage. It's absolutely crazy, and you have to give it a shot. You have to try it out because it's ridiculous. And the amount of clips we've gotten in just a day of playing this build, it has been absolutely insane. Now, let's say you're in a war scenario and all of this goes to shit and it's not working. All of a sudden you're one click away from being a lot more tankier. Boom, there it is, we're now a medium demon. Quick little look at the stats. I would quickly respec, put myself up to 200 con, even 250, and now you're playing the same build just as a medium bruiser. And again, a lot more survivability, similar playstyle really, but slightly less damage, but still ridiculously good damage. And you can play Detto with it, you can play Stoneform with it, and it's also really good. I'm no longer playing the legs that are giving me stats, I'm now playing the Freedom Artifact, which is also obtained through the PvP track. And then I paired this with this full base item, which is Resi Freedom Empowering Breaker, very solid medium glove. And then I pair it with a heavy body as well, which also has a Freedom on it, elemental version. Refreshing is a bit of a dead perk, but we take it anyways. The helmet stays the same, and the boots are now light, with also decent stats. We have health, we have strike condition, and a little bit of the fire harnessing in that as well. But obviously, fill this up with whatever you have available at the moment. These are not that important, these are not that good anyways. I mean, this is great, but everything else is whatever. Quick bonus segment, boys. I forgot to mention this as I was recording the last part, so let's go over this very quickly. Let's speak about the gems and what kind of resistances you're trying to get on this build. Now, this is my gem setup at the moment since I'm using gemstones, but really, all you're looking for is, I'd say, over 10% on physical, and then around, I don't know, between 5 and 10% on the elemental damage resistance. Since I am using gemstone, I go a little bit lower on the elemental, but this is just a super nice basic round defense. Like, as you can see, I have some onyxes, some opals, some diamonds. I'm not really worried about runeglass at the moment, simply because, first of all, it's too expensive, and second of all, I'm changing gear non-stop as it goes. But if you were to use runeglass, I don't know if they changed it or not, but if you can still use the damage boosting runeglass, either look for void damage boost or fire damage boost on the actual runeglass. But again, I don't know if they did any changes to that, so don't quote me on it. And the second important thing when it comes to the Firestaff, just use a tier 2 gem. I'm using a tier 2 aquamarine at the moment. Don't worry with opals, don't worry about fire opals or anything like that. First of all, too expensive again, and second of all, your damage is going to be exactly the same, if not more, with a tier 2 gem. Obviously, you can't even put a gem on the Great X, so there is no point to talk about that anyways. Yeah, bonus segment finished. I'm getting stumped in on OPR. And I don't think there's much else to add to it. I think this is going to be the guide, this is going to be the video, and I hope this helped somebody to experience this in OPRs and see how ridiculous this build actually is. Hope you enjoyed. See you around with more videos. Catch me on the live stream. Have a good one, and goodbye.